Explained by the Billy Meier contacts, mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more. Compiled by David Chance, revised October 18, 2023.
Black hole. See also cosmology. Contact Report 031.
Now pay attention far out there. That is a black hole in the universe. A black hole in the universe is very dangerous. Such a black hole is a gigantic gravitational pull of immense proportions in empty space. The formation of such a hole in empty space is very easy to explain. Somewhere, for example, there is a sun which suddenly collapses due to violent internal processes. All external and also system-wide mass falls inwards into the center, where it is compressed with unimaginable gavolt. The result is that the mass of matter becomes so dense that a single thimbleful of this material suddenly weighs many thousands of tons. Even an elephant would not be able to carry a single tiny speck of dust. The space of the collapsed masses can no longer be filled by the already empty space, so a vacuum within a vacuum is created. The mass that is concentrated in itself, however, pulls everything into itself that enters the area of attraction of the hole, or strays into it. As a result, the mass continues to grow and become larger. Such a hole can also be created artificially. This was also the case in this destroyed system. But before the process had reached its climax, the first worlds already fell into the hole that was becoming. Thus, only the first were destroyed in their structure and form, while those following the first were able to retain their outer form. Thus, the process of hole formation was stopped short of its climax, and only the gigantic and powerful attraction of the whole mass was able to pull the remaining planets and stars into itself.
Contact Report 210.
Ta made a remark to me that there are not only black holes in space, which pull all matter and all light, etc., into themselves, but that there is also the opposite, that which pushes and hurls away everything that comes within its range by tremendous force. Can you tell me what you call this phenomenon, and whether it appears frequently or only sporadically in the vast regions of space?
With what Ptah explained to you and with what you have addressed, it is all correct. It concerns a closed space arch, which is similar to a sphere, and it develops tremendous repulsive forces in itself, which act outwardly from the arch and which reject and repel everything that lies within its range by unimaginable force. The repulsive force-swinging waves reach out very far into free space, often over billions of kilometers away, whereby their power is reduced. This means that the repulsive force of the space arch becomes correspondingly stronger. The ratio can be estimated with a black hole because the same laws apply to such, but only in reverse form.
So you call the whole thing space arch?
That is of correctness.
Contact Report 218.
Now, once again, a question that relates to the black hole phenomenon. Our astronomical science still is not clear as to whether black holes actually exist.
In every galaxy, a black hole exists at its center. Note: the above sentence is corrected in Contact Report 555-80 to read: in every galaxy, there is a black hole in its center, also in the Milky Way. But there are still black holes that have their existence in free space, which are stationary, so to speak, while others wander through free space, as this is also the case with regard to black clouds, that is to say, dark clouds of matter, which are simply called dark clouds by the earthly scientists of astronomy. The so-called black holes actually have nothing to do with a hole, for in truth, These concern very coarse material formations of matter of enormous sizes, which originally result from giant collapsed suns as well as partially from collapsed galaxies. Such events likewise occur over and over again, at the present time and also in the future, somewhere in the far reaches of the universal matter belt, which is erroneously regarded and designated as the actual and entire universe by the earthly scientists of astronomy, although this consists of 6 other belts, so therefore there are 7. But back to black holes. These developed, that is to say, resulted, from the collapsing of suns of immense sizes as well as from the collapsing of galaxies, in which a black hole was already present, however. Through a collapsing, the entire mass of the collapsing sun or galaxy is so tremendously strongly pressed together, that is to say, compressed, that a small quantity of only 1 cubic centimeter of matter weighs several tons. And so, this compressed matter, of course, also generates a powerful gravitational field, by which tremendous masses of matter are attracted and drawn into the black hole, that is to say, into the compression body, by what means this slowly but steadily grows and becomes larger. This growing, of course, also means that the gravitational field continues to become stronger and further reaching. In your galaxy, which you call the Milky Way, the gravitational field extends far beyond 100,000 light-years in diameter. From this, it can also be recognized that a galaxy first emerges from an existing black hole. Through its gravitational field, it draws, that is to say, tears, very far-off nebulae, gases, dust particles, suns, and planets, as well as meteors, comets, and asteroids, etc. into its spell, and then everything within many light-years of distance begins to rotate around this black hole, from which a galaxy is ultimately formed, whose entire mass rotates at tremendous speed, in a bar-shaped, spiral-shaped, or any other form, around the center, even around the black hole. During this process, it naturally happens that through the compressed core, that is to say through the black hole, the torn-in matter gradually makes the core more and more powerful, and ultimately it swallows the entire galaxy, which will also happen someday with the Milky Way. Such a process, however, takes hundreds of millions of years, and often even billions of years. That is, my friend, what I may explain.
That is more than I expected. But you can tell me what happens later then, with a black hole. Somehow it will indeed convert back into something, right?
That is of correctness. Once a critical mass of a black hole is reached, it starts to heat up in a resulting internal atomic fire to such an extent that from this, an enormous solar structure develops, which then separates as an enormous flow of matter and explodes, from which new structures, gases, and nebulae, etc., develop again, which ultimately enter into the gravitational field of a black hole again, from which a new galaxy then develops.
Contact Report 221.
The sun also determines a part of the natural weather and climate happenings of the Earth, and also, not in the least, the purely cosmic influences, as well as those of the galactic central sun and the so-called central black hole of the galaxy, which is named Milky Way by the Earth humans.
Contact Report 223.
I would like to come to speak again on the black hole of our Milky Way, of which we spoke, if I remember correctly, on the 30th of May, 1987. By its attractive force, we do not simply fly with our SOL system uncontrollably out into space, but rather are somehow still held within the Milky Way. There are, indeed, black holes in every galaxy, as you explained, which Sim Ya-se and Ptah already said. But in addition to these, there are still the black wanderers, as you call those kinds of black holes that drift through the cosmos. Ptah also said that in this regard, there would be two types, precisely the black holes that drift wildly through the universe, and then the others that are galaxy-bound, and thus draw a certain course in or through a galaxy and its surroundings. And all black holes have an attractive force that depends on size, and that reaches up to hundreds or even millions of light-years away. And here, I would now like to ask if also with or in our galaxy, such a wandering black hole exists, a galaxy-wandering black hole, so to speak, if I may name this thing in such a way?
That is a good designation, which I will include in my vocabulary. Yes, there actually is such a black wanderer or wandering black hole in the realm of your galaxy. Nevertheless, it is a smaller structure than what the actual central black hole of the Milky Way is. But still, it is very remarkable and draws an extensive course through the galaxy, and to be sure, at around 6,400 light-years of distance from the actual center of the Milky Way. In addition to this black wanderer, there are still some other wandering black holes in the nearer and further surroundings of the galaxy, one of which, from time to time, also exerts a determining influence on the planet Venus of the Sol system.
Contact Report 224.
Simyase once said that there are sometimes very powerful convulsions in the universe that are released by black holes. What explanation lies behind this?
It concerns space-time convulsions, which we also call space-time quakes. These occur when two black holes collide and merge with one another.
You mean that when two black holes collide and merge with one another, then structural quakes will result in the levels of space and time, or even structural convulsions, if I understand that correctly?
That is of correctness.
On my great journey, I was with Ptah and Simyase in a galaxy about 10 million light-years away from the Earth, which was named to me as Centaurus A. In addition, if I remember correctly, this should be the next active galaxy from the Sol system. In its center is a tremendously massive black hole, about which I have, unfortunately, forgotten what Ptah explained, in terms of the solar masses that exist in this structure, whereby solar masses are calculated in accordance with our Sol. Do you know anything about this?
That falls into my knowledge. The center of the galaxy Centaurus A, as it will be designated in earthly astronomy, actually consists of a supermassive black hole, which has a size or attractive force of 1.35 billion 1,250,000 solar masses.
Then the following. Ptah explained a few things to me about the so-called dumbbell sun systems, dumbbell galaxies, dumbbell planetary systems, and dumbbell black holes, cosmic structures, etc., that are so close together that they mutually exchange energies and allow their forces to work against each other. During Ptah's explanations, I forgot to ask if these structures arise in each case together or individually, and then simply approach each other over time, in order then sooner or later to collide into one another or rush into each other and merge or even fuse, as you say.
Both possibilities exist.
Good. Ptah said that every black hole is constituted in accordance with a galaxy, which probably means that a black hole is given in accordance with the size of the galaxy. Thus, a small galaxy would have a smaller black hole, and a larger galaxy would have a larger one.
That is of correctness. The mightier a galaxy is, the more massive and more extensive is the black hole. Black holes, even the non-galactic ones, do not arise from scratch. However, because they only grow and develop together with the surrounding matter, so in one case, together with the galaxy, and in the other case, when rogue solar structures collapse and then move through the cosmos as wandering black holes, if I may so explain it.
You may, of course. The center of the black hole of our Milky Way, also according to Ptah's explanation, is located about 35,000 light-years away from the SOL system in the constellation of Sagittarius, while we are located with our solar system far outside in the so-called Orion spiral arm. Nevertheless, we are not entirely outside of this because until the very outside, even to the last gases of our galaxy, there is still a whole series of light years, which must be calculated at around 20,000, but this is not known to our astronomical scientists. Overall, our Milky Way is, at the greatest distance, about 110,000 light-years in diameter, while our scientists, however, only speak of about 60,000 light-years. But now to this. To my knowledge, the Earth rushes at a speed of 28.8 kilometers per second around the Sun. However, the innermost stars in our Milky Way, which orbit at a far distance around the black hole, must accordingly have a higher speed, right? The Earth is, indeed, a small planet, and revolves around our relatively small Sun at a great distance of about 150 million kilometers.
Your remarks are of correctness. And to your question, I would like to say the following. The innermost stars of your galaxy, the Milky Way, are orbiting the black hole at very high speed, which steadily increases the closer the stars approach the black hole. The inner suns and gases, etc., which are inclined toward the black hole, travel at far more than 1,000 kilometers per second, and these, when they enter the innermost region, still double and triple their speed.
And the black hole of our Milky Way is approximately how many solar masses? And is the center sort of loose or compact and thus massive?
It is a compact and thus massive center, which has an attractive force of around 3.41 million suns.
And will each sun one day become a black hole?
Normally, every massive star turns into a black hole at the end of its existence. Normally, for there are still other possibilities, like that a star or a sun explodes in such a manner that a complete radiation, a gasification, or a fragmentation takes place, whereby all matter is ejected into space. But this fact will still remain hidden from the scientists of the Earth for a long time.
It is also likely that the magnetic bands of the black holes, in accordance with their enormousness, rush out up to several million light-years into space, as even with certain black holes' suction arms that fish several light-years through space and tear matter into themselves, and indeed even loose surface material of planets, as this happened with Venus via the spiral arm of the wandering black hole that moved through M87? And how does it stand, actually, with the black hole that rushes through the region at about 6,000 to 7,000 light-years away from our Sol system, or more precisely, outside of this in the outer spiral area? This is indeed a wanderer that arose from an enormous collapsed sun. Did this wanderer arise in our galaxy or outside of it? This probably has nothing to do with the other black hole that cruises around within the Milky Way, about 6,000 light-years away from the black hole of the center of the galaxy.
Before these insights become one, a very long time should still pass. The black hole that moves as a wanderer through space, far beyond your Sol system at about 6,000 light-years of distance, does actually come from a large star formation of your galaxy, and thus is not a foreign object from a foreign galaxy.
Still another question. Can the tremendous speeds actually be measured from our Earth, which are generated by black holes in the innermost inner and outer rotations? Is or will this be possible for the earthly astrophysical scientists?
Certainly, especially in the coming time, they will gain great experiences with this and will win very many new insights.
Contact Report 227.
If I remember correctly, you told me some time ago that there are different so-called black holes, and these would vary from small to enormous. I talked with a visitor about the black hole of our galaxy and was then asked how big the actual core of the black hole of our galaxy, that is to say our Milky Way, is. This one specifically asked about the actual core, and not about the total extent or total size. So I gave the answer, which I had recalled in accordance with your explanation, that the diameter amounts to 17 light-hours. One told me that this probably had to be a mistake because black holes, if these should actually exist, would have to be much bigger and would comprise light-years. But the black hole of our galaxy, as you said, comprises only 17 light-hours in the core, while only the outer and radiating area is to be measured in light-years.
Your answer was of correctness.
Contact Report 230.
Then, a question regarding the black holes. On my great journey, Ptah made me watch a huge and fantastic structure. It was about two black holes orbiting each other with tremendous speed. The whole thing looked like two water strudels, each of which, while self-rotating, also rotated with each other and already merged into each other. I explained to Ptah that it would certainly be understandable if I named the structure twin black holes that eat each other up. He commented that this hit the nail on the head. Later, he took me to an area where I could observe another phenomenon of a similar kind, except that the structure looked like a triangle because it consisted of three black holes. Both phenomena, according to Ptah, would be rare, but given. The question on that is whether the earthly astronomy scientists already know such structures. But how does a black hole actually develop unless there is first an explosion of a sun and only then everything collapses, which of course also occurs? Svath also told me that even an outer space nebula might turn into a black hole.
To your first question, no, that is not the case, and it will probably take until the third millennium before they will discover such objects. The normal formation of a black hole occurs when a sun turns around itself faster and faster until it collapses due to its own gravity. In the process, it drags all the matter of its environment into it and thereby increases its gravitational pull to such an extent that even the photons, that is, the light, disappear into the mass. Likewise, this happens when nebulae are compressed by an increasing rotation in such a way that they form a mass with a gravitational force.
Then, everything has an effect like a huge vacuum cleaner that swallows everything that lands in its area of attraction.
That is a good comparison.
On my great journey, Ptah explained to me that some 500 million years ago, in or near our Sol system, a tremendous gamma-ray burst occurred, killing and extinguishing at least 2/3 of all life forms on Earth in the air, on land, and in the water. In 3 to 5 seconds, such a flash is supposed to generate and radiate as much energy as our sun would develop in around 5,000 million years. My question now on this is whether you can explain to me what triggers such gamma bursts that are supposed to be rare in and of themselves.
And with regard to the formation of the gamma-ray bursts, it has to be explained that they are caused by gigantic discharges when black holes explode.
At the same time, there are of course also wandering black holes, such as the one that drifted around 500,000 years ago to the Sol system, and then apparently exploded. It must have been like that, if I'll interpret your words well. Already Svath spoke of wandering black holes, but also Ptah.
And what you said in the context of the gamma-ray burst is correct. At that time, it emerged from a wandering black hole. If a black hole in the center of a galaxy detonates due to a huge discharge, the whole galaxy usually also explodes in a gigantic gamma-ray burst.
Contact Report 236.
We have often talked about black holes. Someone asked me about them again. To my knowledge, and in accordance with your explanations, it is the case that black holes draw in all kinds of matter that are attainable for them, along with tremendous amounts of information. Nevertheless, all the matter and information can't be completely imprisoned in a black hole, but will be partially ejected again, from which new stars, etc., then develop. And if I remember correctly, black holes eventually explode again, from which then, through the tremendous forces, energies, and masses of matter, new galaxies originate. You also said, when I asked about it once, that other dimensions couldn't be penetrated, and time traveling couldn't be carried out through black holes. Is this right as such?
Yes, your explanation is correct.
Contact Report 241.
Concerning your statements about the planet racing behind the sun at high speed.
Your question refers to the planet that is not visible from Earth because it travels around the sun at such high speed that it always remains hidden behind the sun? What do you want to know about it?
There is a lack of clarity about the enormous speed. It is usually the case that the further a planet is from the sun, the slower it orbits around the sun. Why is that not the case with this planet? Why is it much faster than usual, and what is its name?
This planet, in terms of its enormous speed, is indeed a phenomenon whose secret we were able to fathom only a little over 76 years ago. Once again, we had to realize that the wandering planet Destroyer had also brought its dangerous forces into play on this planet. The planet Cathane, as it is called in our records, hidden behind the sun, was touched by the SOL system at the 10th to last passage of the Destroyer through the SOL system and torn into its gravitational force field, but then broke out of the force field again and maintained its almost normal orbit around the sun, but at an enormously increased speed while the Destroyer continued its pre-drawn orbit and broke into the solar system, causing destruction or changes in many places. Since then, the planet Cathane itself has been orbiting the sun in the form and at abnormally high speed mentioned above, but slowly moving away from the solar system and entering the attraction area of a wandering spiral arm of a black hole that will sweep the planet with it later this year. It is the same spiral arm that also took the sand and dust accumulations of the planet Venus.
And the spiral arm of the black hole, will it be even more effective in our solar system?
No, because if there are not unpredictable changes, then the spiral arm collapses with the torn path of the planet Cathane, and again becomes one with the hollow funnel of the dark hole, or even the black hole, as the Earth humans call these structures. Each black hole is usually a funnel-shaped structure of rotating form, which has wandering spiral arms, which often extend very far into free space and even have distances in light years calculated. In rare cases, we ourselves have measured such matter rippers, as we call these spiral arms of the black holes, in lengths of up to 8.7 light years.
Well, then it would be interesting and perhaps even important to know where the black hole is or how far away it is from our solar system. They once gave me approximate information about it, but I do not know if it really applies. From an exact specification, it would then be possible to calculate the length of the spiral arm that has afflicted Venus and that will take the planet Cathane with it.
This black hole is located in the direction of the structure that you call M87, and that is about 5.4 light-years away from the planet Cathane.
And the spiral arm, it should be a bit longer, because it corresponds to an arc, right?
Your assumption is correct, but the length of the spiral arm is only about 1 light-year longer than the distance to the black hole.
Contact Report 250.
It has to be said that the black holes also explode again when they are compressed enough, from which new galaxies, nebulae, stars, and planets arise. These black holes are gigantically large in relation to the original Big Bang mass, because in the Big Bang, the total mass of the explosion site was not larger than a flea, as explained by Genesis, while a black hole in compressed form can have entire planetary or solar dimensions.
Contact Report 251.
There comes a time when, with the weakening of the sun's nuclear fusions, enormous changes will take place in the solar system. Not only will the entire gravitational field be out of control and change, but large-scale climate change will also be the order of the day. This is spurring scientists on to peak performance, because they want to counteract the negative effects of the sun, which, in contrast to erroneous scientific assumptions, appear much earlier over many millennia than previously assumed. Only now it is recognized correctly that the sun is a dying star, and thus the setting of the Sol system is already determined. Even if the sun will continue to exist still approximately 4.1 billion 4,100,000 years, however then already as dead star, which is swallowed then after this time by a black hole and is destroyed. So the scientists begin to perform at their best, and find the miscalculations underlying the pi number. By correcting and now correctly calculating the pi number, the scientists and the incredibly sophisticated technology will be able to harness unimaginable energies for Earth by making it possible for them to derive energies from black holes in the wide area of the Milky Way and make them usable for Earth. At this time, however, scientists will still not be able to reach the center of our galaxy to tap into the black hole there. However, this will not be necessary for the time being, because the surrounding objects for energy generation are completely sufficient to serve Earth. This new energy production, as well as the kind of the energy itself, make it possible from now on for the terrestrial human being to develop new space travel forms, in whose consequence and extension also that travel and transport factor becomes reality, which in the year 1995 and all time before, as well as still long time into the future, is called fantasy, and impossible, that is to say, the time travel. This invention, in turn, enables man to travel into the past and the future, as well as into the vastness of the universe, which was previously impossible. In this consequence, it naturally cannot be missing that new human life forms are discovered, extraterrestrials, from which Earth humans will learn very much and unimagined, and which are around uncommonly much more intelligent than the humans of Earth themselves.
Contact Report 331.
And the universe adjacent to our Dern universe, what form is that? Could that already be fathomed? A channel had to be created through it, which is probably called a wormhole here. In any case, it must be something that falls within this framework.
The adjacent universe, which we have not yet named, as well as the one where Ptah is not located, is a higher universe, a central universe, which we cannot travel to. Since it is dimensioned differently in its evolution than our Dern universe and its dimensions, we are only able to create an energy tunnel through it in order to reach the other side of the universe where Ptah is located. So what you call channel, we call energy tunnel.
Ptah is over there with his giant room, and it must take enormous masses of energy to create this tunnel and maintain it. And how do you create this energy?
That is correct. Ptah is in the alien universe with his wide-bodied flying machine. The energy for the creation of the energy tunnel and its maintenance we get from a black hole, as you call it. Other sources would be far too small in every way to generate the necessary energy.
Could you make a comparison?
I am not familiar with this field, but I know that the energies needed per second include several times the mass of energy, as you call it, that a sun like the one in your system releases in 1 second.
As a layman in physics, I am afraid this is a closed book. But it gives me the notion that an enormous mass of energy is needed, which we on Earth are probably not yet capable of producing by any means, right?
That is absolutely correct. Such enormous energies cannot be created by pure technical means, as they are available to terrestrial human beings or even to us. In fact, gigantic cosmic objects are required for this purpose, which must also be inexhaustible in their energy supply, as is only the case with a black hole.
Can any kind of black hole be used for this purpose? That is to say, a stationary or a moving one?
In principle, the energies can be used by everyone, but for the specific purpose of the energy tunnel, only the energies of a stationary black hole can be used. In the case of our energy tunnel, however, we do not use a simple black hole to generate energy, but a twin structure, by which I mean two similar black holes that are close to each other and allow their energies to flow into each other.
Interesting. I've never heard of that. How far apart are such twin black holes from each other that they can still interact with their energies and still not eat each other and therefore not merge, if I may put it that way?
Your description is good, as is your assumption that a certain distance between the objects is necessary, which results from their power. To be calculated are the distances in a larger number of light years. The gravitational forces of the black holes alone extend over hundreds, thousands, or even millions of light years, depending on their size. The type of black hole is also important.
There are different kinds of black holes, and they have different kinds of effects, as Quetzal once explained to me.
That is correct.
Contact Report 471.
Can black holes also form in dwarf galaxies? Or is this only true for large galaxies?
They can also occur in small galaxies and dwarf galaxies, as well as in free space, where black holes have been formed since the formation of the matter belt.
Then black holes are not necessarily dependent on galaxies to form?
No, because black holes can also form in free space due to very specific circumstances.
And what are these circumstances?
I am not allowed to talk openly about that because I have to leave the research of these things to earthly scientists. For them, it must be enough to know that black holes also originate in free world dream.
And so this is only possible in the matter belt, which our scientists mistakenly see as the universe, because they don't know that the matter belt is only one of 7 belts, while the other 6 contain no coarse matter.
Your assumption is true that black holes can only form in the matter belt, because only in the matter belt are the necessary conditions for their formation. In the other matterless universe belts, the formation of black holes is not possible.
Aha! Then the case is clear. Therefore, certain physical factors are necessary for this, such as vibrations or radiations, dark matter and fine matter, which compress and thus become so dense that they become an enormously heavy mass and develop a tremendous gravity and thus an attraction of gigantic strength.
I am not allowed to give any information about that.
Contact Report 537.
Gamma-ray flashes have an extremely destructive effect when they hit planets. If, for example, the Earth were struck with the full energy of a gigantic flash of gamma radiation, the origin of which would be far less than 10 million light-years away, then the Earth's atmosphere as well as all electrical and electronic equipment would be completely destroyed and all life would be wiped out. The phenomena of such high-energy flashes, as you call them, have various causes. For example, gamma-ray bursts are caused by a nuclear collapse of massive suns, but also by the fusion of 2 neutron stars, or by the fusion of a neutron star with a black hole in an extragalactic star system.
Contact Report 576.
Then I would like to ask you about the giant black holes that exist in the universe. How do these giants come about? Because I cannot imagine that they become so gigantic simply by swallowing up their own galaxy.
That is also not the case. As you know, the galaxies, many of which contain black holes, wander in the vastness of the universe, with many of them coming closer together over millions and billions of years, such as the Milky Way galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy. Both galaxies have large black holes, which actually do not correspond to holes, but are enormously massive black formations around which an infinite number of shining stars circle, slowly being torn into the enormous black mass. As galaxies approach each other, they orbit each other and are torn apart, and in the end, the black holes also attract each other and merge, creating enormous giants of black holes. However, these can also continue to take up matter when they collide with other galaxies, making them larger and larger.
In our Milky Way center, how big is the black hole?
The black hole is about 10 times larger than the Sun in the Sol system, and its mass is also millions of times larger than the Sun.
Contact Report 586.
So far, I understand what you are saying, but I would be interested to know how it works and other connections, as well as whether dark matter also exists in the black holes, which seems logical to me. Although I also know, because you told me, that there are small and large black holes in the whole space of the universe, apart from the central black holes at the center of the galaxies.
I am not allowed to explain further about dark matter, but with regard to black holes, I can say once again that they exist in almost incalculable numbers throughout the universe, and also in free space. So there are large ones that comprise or contain millions of times the masses of the Sun, while others are small and almost puny, as you once said, because they do not cover even 1 cubic meter. And of course, black holes also contain dark matter.
Contact Report 592.
Black holes are, after all, supermassive formations of matter. They are both so-called galactic central suns, as you call black holes as the center of galaxies, but also drift through galaxies and even through free space. These formations are both small and large, or even gigantic, as I know from your explanations, but also from your father Sfath, as well as from Asket, Quetzal, and Simyase, your daughter, because we have spoken about them on various occasions, officially or in private. Such black holes can have a weight several times or even millions of times heavier than our Sun, which is said to have a quintillion of 989 quadrillion tons, as our scientists say. What interests me today is what actually happens or can happen when 2 or 3 black holes collide, which is possible, for example, when such formations collide in a galaxy or drift through free space. I am also interested in what can happen when 2 galaxies, and therefore also 2 black holes, collide, as will happen when the Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy collide, which will happen in about 3.7 billion years, as you say. A smaller galaxy, M33 as you once called it, is also supposed to be dragged into this collision. But what I am interested in is what happens when 2 galaxies with black holes, or so-called floating black holes, collide.
As far as black holes are concerned, which spin on their own as they drift through a galaxy or through space, it is quite possible that 2, or very rarely even 3, of such formations approach each other, collide and merge. This always produces enormous masses of energy, through which gravitational oscillations are created, which move through the galaxies and through world space at the speed of light. If such events occur in galaxies, the gravitational waves may be able to cause a lot of trouble.
Contact Report 643.
What I've wanted to ask you for a long time refers to what your father Sfath explained to me, that earthquakes and volcanic eruptions influence the gravitational waves of Earth, or change them in a certain way, whereby the gravitational vibrations can be measured and registered. Such and other gravitational oscillations, Sfath explained, would arise on the one hand on all active planets, but also when planets or 2 or even 3 black holes, but also suns or galaxies collide. He also explained that such events produce very strong gravitational oscillations, which propagate at very high speed throughout the universe.
Contact Report 645.
Back in 1947, your father spoke of dark giant formations and dark giant formations, which I must understand as black holes today.
That's right, of course.
As far as I know, black hole is a term that attracted the attention of Earth's people about 50 years ago. Anyway, I may remember that I first heard or read this term around 1970.
This is indeed the case because in 1967, a man named John Archibald Wheeler made this term black hole publicly known, but it is not due to his idea as its origin. It must also be said that since then in astronomy research for black holes, many expressions have been coined and circulated, Although the term black hole appeared in modern times for the first time in 1964 in a report by science journalist Anne Ewing in relation to a symposium of the American Association for the Advancement of Science on the various final stages of stars. The author cited a Hong-Yi Chiu as the organizer, as did an Alistair Cameron, Charles Misner, Volker Weidemann, and John Beverly Oke, who appeared as speakers, but the actual originator of the term black hole was not openly mentioned, hence the name of the inventor of the term is unclear. The phenomenon of black holes has been known since 1783, but as dark stars, by a British naturalist named John Michell, who speculated on such dark stars and assumed that their gravitation must be so powerful that they were able to trap the light. He assumed that in the outer space of dark stars, sufficiently compact mass or energy accumulations form around their space area, into which matter as well as visible light are only torn but cannot get out again.
Your father Svath said, I remember that, and you read that to me, that as a rule around black holes, there is radiant light, namely from suns and planets, etc., which are attracted and begin to shine brightly up. So be it with our galactic central sun.
That's right. And light that gets close to a black hole or other massive object is deflected and bundled, making it much brighter than before. A black hole itself looks like a lens. And it has to be said that apart from the actual black holes, which are visible through their activity in the form of the radiating outer image, there are also visible stars or suns which circle around an invisible black hole, which repeatedly tears away matter from the star and sucks it into the black hole. This causes the solar structure to heat up, also because it is approaching the black hole more and more, and emits X-rays. Eventually, it is devoured by the black hole.
I am aware of this, and I also know that our astronomy scientists call the resulting radiation the death cry of matter.
I'm familiar with that.
Contact Report 660.
The process of the formation of comets and planets in the Dern universe is not finished, because it goes on unstoppable, therefore also in the present and until far future again and again new comets and planets, but also suns are formed. In this, the entire cosmic processes play an important role in every respect, so...
Excuse me, also the black holes?
Those are included in it naturally.
Contact Report 820.
Then, something else. With Svath, far from Earth, I was able to observe once when a gamma-ray burst occurred very far away in the material belt. Svath explained to me that something similar to the creation of the universe from the nihilo, that is to say the absolute nothing, was happening. Here, however, it was the case that matter accumulated to form an enormously powerful energy complex that swallowed up countless suns and planets, etc., and thus became ever more energetic and gigantic. The whole thing becomes a giant structure that stores more and more energy in itself, precisely by swallowing suns and planets, etc., until it is so overloaded that it explodes, which then produces a gamma flash. This lightning, however, was in its form nothing other than newly forming matter, from which new celestial bodies, that is to say suns and also planets, etc., were created in the course of billions of years. These giant formations, he said at the time, would in future be called black holes if they were discovered by stargazers.
Contact Report 825.
But speaking of black entities, with Svath I learned that these are super-heavy, super-rich energy matter formations, which today are simply called black holes, although they are just the opposite, namely super-heavy giant formations with a mass of millions of captured stars and planets, asteroids and comets, etc. These black structures will usually form new galaxies in the distant future, as Svath explained. these gigantic formations which are called black holes today. Svath, let me see. It was probably 15,000 or 17,000 or so light-years from Earth, Omega Centauri, where such a thing is, and in whose area countless star formations are rapidly orbiting it. He explained that a new galaxy would form from this in the distant future, as also happened with the Milky Way, which he also let me see with its black giant formation. This, he said at the time, would one day merge with the Andromeda Galaxy, because they would meet in about 3.2 billion years, if I remember correctly.